Hello, welcome to Module 4 of the Triflim course, where we focus on food labeling. Consumers not only demand the purchase of safe food, but they also have the right to make their choices based on truthful information that does not mislead them regarding the nature of the products they purchase. This information is described in the legislation on the provision of information to food consumers. The European Union Regulation No. 1169 of 2011, entitled Information on Foodstuffs, constitutes the current institutional framework and introduces labeling rules, such as the mandatory nutritional declaration, the mandatory labeling of allergens in the list of ingredients of pre-packaged foods. It also indicates how these elements should be visually represented, for example, in bold, underlined, etc., in order to differentiate them from the other ingredients. The regulation also includes mandatory information to consumers, to be provided in a legible form, about allergens in bulk food, that is, in food sold, for example in restaurants, canteens, bakeries, confectionery shops, etc. This regulation also establishes additional specific labeling rules for specific categories of food. Finally, it includes the rules for the labeling of nanotechnology, ingredients, and the voluntary provision of other information. The most important article of this regulation is Article 7, which refers to fair information practices about food, namely in regard to its nature, identity, property, composition, quantity, durability, country of origin, or place of provenance, method of manufacture, or obtaining. Common problems relate to attributing to the foodstuff effects or properties that it does not possess, suggesting that the foodstuff has special characteristics, whereas all similar foodstuffs have these same characteristics, namely, highlighting the presence or absence of certain ingredients and/or nutrients, suggesting through appearance of the description or pictorial representation the presence of a particular ingredient, when in reality a naturally present component or ingredient naturally used in that food has been replaced by a different component or ingredient. On the other hand, indicating the country of origin or place of provenance is one of the most difficult parts of the regulation, and many infractions found by official health controls concern precisely this point. Initially, specific provisions of European Union legislation provide for mandatory indication of origin on products, such as virgin and extra virgin olive oil, honey, and organic farming products. In addition to these special exhibitions, indication of origin is also mandatory in 3 cases. If non-compliance is likely to mislead the consumer, in the case of fresh and frozen meat, and when the origin of the primary ingredient is different from the origin of the finished product. The first case must be examined taking into account the information provided on the label, whether in verbal form or in image form. For the other 2 cases, specific measures are foreseen. Thus, Regulation No. 1337 of 2013 was published, which regulated issues relating to the indication of origin for fresh and frozen meat. Regulation 2018-775 was also published, relating to the rules for indicating the origin of the primary ingredient, when it has an origin different from that of the final product. In many foods we observe the existence of voluntary indications related to the presence or absence of a certain nutrient, as well as the effect that this ingredient has on our health. In this context, it is understood that any message or representation that is not mandatory, in accordance with community or national legislation, including any pictorial representation, graphic or symbolic in any form, whether declaring, suggesting or implying that an element has particular characteristics, whether in terms of nutritional properties or in terms of health. When a company in the food sector chooses to use these indications, it must follow specific rules described in Regulation 1924/2006. That can also be found online in the Community Register. The most common nutritional and health claims, such as when a certain food is rich in the specific nutrient, sugar-free, or low in energy. Health claims are aggregated in the Community Nutrition and Health Claims Register, also available online. This log shows authorized and rejected health claims.